Back when I was still planning my Trans-American Trail trip, I was going over the plan with my family. The original route was going to take me to Utah, then back home. The family felt it was very important that if I'm going all the way to Utah, I must visit the site of the famed Donner Party tragedy. Of course, then it was decided if I'm going that far, I also must visit the Pacific Ocean. That's kinda how a plan happens around here. For those that have no idea who or what the Donner Party was, we have to go back close to 180 years ago, just about the time gold was discovered in the West. Many people began loading up and moving west in hopes for a better life. You know, go west, young man. We will focus on one particular group of those westward travelers. While history has recorded it as the Donner Party, the Donner family was only a small portion of the 80-some-odd people that left the east heading for California in this group. Along the way, traveling by horseback and wagons, they met many hardships. They also met a man named Hastings. Mr. Hastings convinced them he knew a shortcut to the Promised Land. Those that followed the alleged shortcut found themselves crossing the Sierra Nevada mountains in winter. As they trudged westward, the snow got deeper and deeper. Records indicate as deep as 13 feet. Eventually, forward progress became impossible. A camp was made. Supplies ran out. They were forced to eat the horses, then the pets, and it is believed that eventually, they were forced into cannibalism to survive. Only about half of the original party made it out alive. Obviously, I condensed the story here, but what a tragedy. But this is not a history lesson. Now on to my experience. There is something of a memorial park located where the aforementioned camp was. It's off the beaten path, no major signs pointing it out, very easy to overlook. When I arrived, there was only one other vehicle in the parking area. I parked and made my way over to the trail system that takes you through the historic campsite. Out on the trail through the marsh, I passed a man, woman, and small child. The occupants of the other vehicle, and they soon left. Since this place was so desolate and quiet, I decided I would camp there for the night. Now let me say there are no campsites here for the public. There may even be a no camping sign somewhere, but there was not one visible from where I was parked. I busied myself with fixing a bite of dinner, and as I was cooking my piece of chicken, I heard the sound of people approaching. On foot. I turned to see a man and woman coming out of the woods walking towards me. They looked to be early to mid-70s with something of a hippie look going on. As they approached, they greeted me and said they were Bob and Dianne. As is typical, they asked a number of questions about my truck, where I was from. All the usual stuff. When they asked if I intended on camping there, I said, well, I'm going to try. Dianne was pretty adamant that I might get into trouble with the wildlife or the wildlife officers. When I said I would take my chances, Bob cheered. Hell yeah, fight the power. Don't let the man tell you where you can camp. Dianne, still a bit worried about my welfare, invited me back to their house for the night. She said I was welcome to camp safely in their yard. I cordially declined. We chatted a bit more and away they went. Into the woods towards the Donner camp. Shortly after was when it dawned on me they did not arrive in a vehicle. The only structure here was a wooden walkway that stretched into the woods and marshlands. No houses nearby. Yeah, that was kind of weird. I'm pretty sure I really saw them both. I'm also pretty sure they were real. I'm equally sure they were not living in the woods where the Donners perished many years ago. They were dressed very casually in jeans and short sleeves, no extra clothes, no backpack. As best I recall, it got down around 30 degrees that night on the mountain. Kinda chilly for the way they were dressed. I never smelled or saw a campfire that night. I was a tad uneasy when I slipped into bed that night, and sleep was a bit restless. In the end, I survived. I did not see Bob, Dianne, any other humans or bears. I did see some kind of wampus cat scamper into the marsh as I was packing up to head further west, but that was it. Eventually, I checked Google Maps and verified there were no houses anywhere near where I was that night. Do you suppose a site like that, where such a tragedy happened, holds a doorway to someplace? Is it possible Bob and Dianne are guardians of some sort and were looking after my well-being?